Okay, today we're going to begin on Samach Tesamid Beis. We're actually in the middle of a Mishnah. We're 5 lines from the top. The line starts Evid. We thank Hashem. We're able to learn every day. First of our learning, we should have the basic Mikdash immediately. It should be a panacea. Okay, what did we learn what did we learn before? That we're learning about a woman eating truma.
No.
Either because her father's a kohen or her husband's a kohen, and how that could get ruined if she has relations with someone that would invalidate her. So yesterday we said that if someone that wasn't fit to be married in the Jewish people would make a halal or something, so, or a zaina, whatever she would become because of this. So that would create a problem. If it was a regular Jewish man that lived with a Jewish woman, then it depends. If she was a bas kayan, then if there was a child, that would affect her, that she can't go back to her father's house. And if it's the other way, if she's a Yisraelis and the man was a kayan, so he doesn't. She would only eat if there was a marriage there. Okay. Now we say ha'eved. Ha'eved paisel mishum bia, ve'ina paisel mishum zera. An eved, which means a slave, referring to a non-Jewish slave, if he lives with a bas kayan, so that would invalidate her from eating truma. She becomes someone that's not eligible to be married to a kayan. She becomes like a zaina, I think, and then she can't eat truma, even back in her father's house. But okay, now the next case the Gemara is going to need to explain when it says Ve'ina Paisel Mishum Zera. The Gemara says Ketzad. What are you referring to? Well, we have 2 options. We have a Bas Yisrael L'Kayan and we have a Bas Kayan L'Yisrael. You see, we're trying to figure out over here. Usually, when we said there's one other factor here. When there's a child in a marriage, if she's married to a Kayan, and there's a child, that makes her continue eating truma. Right. The child maintains her kayan marriage. Yeah, even if he'd passed away, but the child still keeps her in that kayan household. So how's it going to work with an eved? So it works like this. Well, you have 2 options. She's a bas yisrael to a kayan or a bas kayan yisrael. V'yoldei men ben, and there's a son. Okay. V'holacha ben v'nichbash ala shivcha v'yoldei men ben. Now she has a grandson. But how did she? Well, she has a son. What did the son do? Goes and he lives with a maidservant, a non-Jewish maidservant, and now she has a grandson. Now, who is that grandson? It's a who could do something like that? Yeah, my one of my teachers was describing his father. That was a great Talmud Chacham. He said, "My father could answer any question, except for one. How could a Jewish slave, an Eved Ivri, live with the Shifcha Kananas?" Says that I can't answer. Here it's not an Eved Ivri though. Here it's it could be an Eved Ivri. But the main point is that this woman that was either married to a Kohen or she was a Kohenes has a son that has a child that's not associated with the father because it was with the Shifcha Kananas.
So Bas Yisrael has a child from a Kohen. Husband dies. She can still eat truma because of her son. Now, if her son dies,
she can't.
And if her son left the son,
then she can.
She can't.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna learn here. Yeah.
Question is, what is this yichus?
The yichus, very good. You summed it up. So it says Hareze Eved. The child is an Eved. Now the Mishnah continues to elaborate on this case. It says Hoysa aim aviv bas Yisrael l'kayan. Now we go back. We had 2 options before. Let's say the grandmother was a bas Yisrael that was married to a kayan. Well, We know the rule that if there's a child, she continues to eat truma. But in this case, loy teichel, she can't eat. She loy teichel b'truma, she can't eat. Why? She has a grandson. Her son obviously isn't around anymore, passed away. Her husband passed away, her son passed away. And now, but there's a grandson. Can the grandson have her continue to eat truma because it says v'zera einla, if she doesn't have any descendants left? So here she has a descendant, but the problem is that this descendant is not associated with her because it's a shivcha's child. It doesn't have yichus, like you put it. Let's see, it's the other way. Let's see, it's Baskaya and Yisrael. Morning, we're in the middle of the Mishnah. Baskaya and Yisrael. She was a Baskayan. So then Teichel. Now, what's going on over here? When a Baskayan marries a Yisrael, she leaves her father's house. She can go back to her father's house if there's no children. So does she have a child? Well, she had a son, he passed away. She has a grandson, but that grandson is not associated. So she continues to eat teichel b'truma because the grandson that's a slave doesn't affect her from going back to her father's house. Okay, that's the story with the Eved. Basically, the idea is that an Eved doesn't have yichus to the grandmother. The slave doesn't have yichus to the grandmother. It means the son lived with a maidservant and has a son. It's not really related to the family. Okay. Mamzer paisel Michael. A mamzer, on the other hand, is a different story. A mamzer is related to the family.
What's the term for the other relationship? The son is considered a what? It's not a mamzer. He's an Eved.
Well, in this case,
So let's see the case. We'll follow this through. Kate said, what's the story? Well, you always have two options. You have a Bas Yisrael Kayin and a Bas Kayin Yisrael. What's her family and what's his family? So there's a marriage here. One of them is a Kayin. We're dealing with Truma. It's either her or him. V'yoldei men a Bas. And they have a daughter. Okay. Then the daughter goes and marries a non-Jew. Now, is that really in Venesis? Yeah, it says Venesis. Taisus points out that the term could have been v'nichbesha in my Eved, like it used the word before, which was a term of just having a relations. Nichbesha sounds like pressed, right? Oh, you think so? I think I saw the expression v'nidbak. Rashi, I think, used that. Nidchak v'nidbak. Okay, so she has a child with a non-Jew. V'yoldei men a ben, has this child, Harezim mamzer. This is following an opinion that holds that a non-Jewish man with a Jewish woman, the child is a mamzer. We had a whole discussion about this several weeks ago. We said that that's not the concluding halacha, but this was a clear opinion. It was the opinion of Rebbe. We'll see in the end of the Gemara that a non-Jewish man with a Jewish woman, the child is a mamzer. That's the Mishnah is following that view now. So she now has a grandson that's a mamzer. Why? Because it's a non-Jewish father. So we had two options. Remember what the grandmother is, if she's a Bas Kayin or she's just married to a Kayin. So how you say, Amy, my Bas Yisrael a Kayin. Let's say the grandmother was a Bas Yisrael a Kayin, so she has a marriage here to a Kayin. Well, if she's married to a Kayin, so Teichel b'Truma, she can still eat Truma. Why? Even though he passed away. But she had a daughter, and the daughter has a son. Now, even if the daughter passed away, but she's still considered married to the Kayin in the Kayin's household because of the child, the grandchild that she has, which is associated with her, even though the father wasn't Jewish. Bas Kayin li Yisrael. Let's say it's the other way. Let's say
It's not a marriage per se.
even though it wasn't a marriage, but it's still considered the grandchild.
This would be like a second marriage necessarily or not?
This is her. She marries a Kayin.
Yeah.
She has a daughter. The daughter has relations with a non-Jew. They have a child. And now the grandmother is considered still in the Kayin's household,
Right.
even though he's passed away, because there's a grandson existing from that Kayin. Okay, let's say it's the other way. Bas Kayan Yisrael. Let's say she was a Bas Kayan and she's married to a Yisrael. Now the grandchild is going to affect Lei Teichel B'Truma because she's still considered in her husband's household because of the grandchild, even though the grandchild came from a non-Jew, but it came from her daughter that was married to a non-Jew. It's still associated with her. Kayan,
Child here is only a son, grandson.
yeah. Could it be a daughter also? I think it could be a daughter also. I don't know why we're specifically choosing a son. Yeah. Okay. Now, Kain Gadol Pamshu Paisel. It's possible that a Kain Gadol, this is like a trivia type question. How could a Kain Gadol invalidate someone from eating truma? Let's take a look. Ketzad. Bas Kayan Yisrael. You have someone, a woman that comes from a Kayan household. She's a Bas Kayan. She marries a Yisrael, a regular Jewish person. The older men are Bas, and they have a girl. Halcha Bas v'nises l'Kayan. The daughter marries a Kayan. Well, it sounds like a good shidduch.
Yeah.
The mother came from a Kayan household. I know the father's not a Kayan, but the daughter goes and marries a Kayan. The older men are Ben, and now they have a son. Hareza Rayelius Kayan Gadol. This son could be a Kayan Gadol. Okay, why? He's just a regular Kayan, but he could be a Kayan Gadol. Let's say he becomes a Kayan Gadol, and he's serving on the Mizbeach. He's a real Kayan Gadol. Well, Michael es imai upaisel aim imai. Let's say the mother's husband passed away, the father passed away. Remember the mother, there's a grandmother, a daughter, let's call her the mother now, because she has a son that's a Kayan Gadol.
Mhm.
Now, the mother is not a Bas Kayan. The mother is only married to a Kayan. So how will the mother eat truma? Either she's still in the marriage, or she has a son from the marriage. Well, the husband passed away, and she has a son from the marriage. Okay. So she's able to eat truma. The grandmother was a Bas Kayan, so she could eat truma as long as there's no descendants left. But because she's married to a Yisrael, so she can't eat truma. But if the Yisrael passed away, the husband passed away, she should go back to her father's house, which she can do as long as there's no descendant. The problem is there is a descendant. He's a Kayan Gadol. So the Kayan Gadol makes the grandmother forbidden to eat truma. Look at the expression that it says. Zaisi Meres is what it says. Like Kibni, there should not be more like my son, Kayan Gadol, Shupaslani min truma, that he makes me puzzle from eating truma. The problematic Kayan Gadol that ruins the grandmother, not the son, the grandmother from eating truma.
Was the Kohen Gadol's grandmother?
Yeah.
Was the grandmother Bas
The
Kohen?
grandmother was a Bas Kayan.
And her
Husband was not.
husband? Yeah.
Yeah.
But she stops eating.
Your question.
She stops eating truma when she got married
Got
to
married.
Israel.
Right.
So he's essentially only preventing her from going back to being able
Right.
to eat truma.
Right. Right.
Her action is what
Nevertheless.
caused her. Her action is what caused her to stop eating truma. He's preventing her from being able to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear. Yeah, we definitely have what to tell the grandmother. That take it easy. Don't get so upset. You're the one that. But nevertheless, she could still talk to her friends like this. My grandson. Okay. Okay. Tanina lahadetana rabbanan. We have a brisa that supports our Mishnah. This is going back not to the part that we learned today, but the part we learned yesterday. said that if there's a marriage between a shaita, it doesn't affect the woman. It's not considered a real marriage, even if there was chuppah kedushin, because he can't make a kinyan. It means he can't really get married. Shaita v'kadan shenasu nashim u'mesu. Once they passed away, then the wives don't need to do chalitza and don't need to do yibam. Why? Because there was no marriage there. So too, that no marriage would allow her to either eat truma or not to eat truma, because she's not considered married. Let's say the shaita was a kayan. She won't be allowed now to eat truma because of that. Ketzad, we continue in the Mishnah. Said like this: if it was a regular Jewish person that has relations with a bas kayan, well, she can eat truma. Why? Because she didn't marry the person. It was just she had relations with this person. Her father still eats truma. She goes back to her father's house every day. She lives in her father's house. She's not married, so she eats truma. The only problem is that if she gets pregnant, then she can't go back. She's not considered back in her father's house, and she can't eat truma. Gemara says, "Even the ibra leitaychal leichas shema ibra." Why are you saying only when she's pregnant she can't eat truma?
Didn't you say that if she miscarries,
Then she can.
Yeah. So
But why are you saying that only if she's pregnant? Every time she has relations, maybe she got pregnant. Now, do we suspect that she gets pregnant from just one relations? But that's what we're suggesting now, that if when she's pregnant, she can't eat truma, so then maybe she's pregnant. She has what to worry about. Gemara says like this: Milay Tanan, did we not learn in the Mishnah? We had a story, unfortunate story, of two people that get married, and that night they mixed up the wives, mixed up the husbands, mixed up the wives. They ended up living with the wrong woman. It says that they can't live with their actual husbands or wives until 3 months, because maybe they got pregnant. We have to figure out who the real father is. Now, what we're seeing from that story and that halacha is that we have a concern that one relations could have made the woman pregnant, and they have to abstain from relations until they can determine if she's pregnant. So here she has relations. Maybe she's pregnant. If that's what you're worried about, in that case, so worry about it here. And why are you telling me that she's allowed to eat truma? She should not be allowed to eat truma. You see that that's a concern. Okay. Interesting. We're more concerned about yuchsin than we are about truma. When we're when we're looking in the yuchsin Shulchan Aruch, like who is the father, we're going to separate them. And we're going to say, well, maybe she's pregnant. When it comes to truma, we'll say, all right, probably not. She's probably not pregnant.
What do you accomplish by 3 months?
3 months is you can determine if she got pregnant from that mistaken relations with the wrong husband.
Well, who said it was the wrong husband?
Oh no! The case was that there were two men and two women that got married. What was it? When it was like this, the fourth parak or something. Parak Dalet Achim. Yeah. So they that's the fourth parak. So we said that we wanted to determine who was the father, the fatherhood, and so because we always wanted to know the yichus, even though it wouldn't really make a difference. I mean, okay, whatever, but nevertheless, it would make a difference if some child wanted to marry an uncle or something. It would be the wrong father. So we separated them for 3 months.
Don't they need to get divorced?
This was considered a mistake. Yeah, this was a mistake. This was considered a ninus. right? If it would be a kayan, it would be problematic. But right. Oh, that would create problems. Yeah, brothers and sisters would create problems. But what daf was that on? Does anyone see it? Yeah, this is called havchana, but they had to separate. Shleisha achim, 33b. Okay. Shnayim shekidru shtei nashim b'shas knisas l'chuppah huchlafu es shel zeh lezeh v'shel zeh lezeh. Harei chayav mishum eisas ish. Okay, it's a prohibition. Ima yuachen mishum eisasach. Ima yuachayis mishum ishalachayis. Ima yinidis mishum nida. What's the rule? Mafish naisha shleish chadash mishum mubarasim. Ima yukayan es nifsal minachum. Okay, the point over here is that we do suspect that one relations could have made her pregnant. And so there here also, maybe she's pregnant. The Gemara says that you don't suspect for Chuma that maybe she's pregnant. 1 second. For Tanya, we have a brisa. It's an interesting fellow. Gives his wife a get that should take effect 1 hour before he dies. Now, when's he going to die? He doesn't say. Just 1 hour after the get. So only when he dies do we determine when the get was effective. I mean, the get was effective, but we didn't know that until he passed away an hour later. So this is problematic. If he's a kohen, what's his wife going to do eating truma? Every moment, maybe he's going to die in an hour. So asur lechel b'truma miyad. You see, for truma, we suspect to just like a possibility. You were saying before, you don't suspect that one relation is going to make her pregnant for truma. That was something you're concerned about for yuchsin. 1 second. Well, you see that truma, you do have such sort of suspicions that, and you have to be concerned about things that are maybe not probable, but possible. Right. I don't think we hold like that, but yeah, there is a concept like that, right? There's one factor that we left out. That factor is that someone that's what's that noise? Interesting. That someone that's that's having a relations with znus, licentious relations, is going to try not to get pregnant. It says she's gonna misapeches. She's gonna turn over to make sure she doesn't get pregnant. Now that's the factor that we have to put into this, that she's having relations with someone that she's not married to. So because we can throw in that other variable, that maybe she's going to try to not get pregnant, so then we don't suspect it for truma. It would only be if she was married that we'd be concerned that one relations would make her pregnant, as we saw before, that one relations with the person that she thought was her husband was a concern. The Gemara says, now we take an opposite approach. And you're telling me that for marriage, you do suspect that she's pregnant. Crazy story. Baskayan, she's married to a Jewish person. He dies. They go to the funeral. The husband passed away. They go to the funeral. Immediately, Shiva, there's immediately right after the funeral, she goes back to her father's house and she's eating chum. 1 second. How could she be eating truma? Maybe she's pregnant. Was it znus that you're telling me you don't have to be concerned? No, she was married. And you're still not worried about that maybe she's pregnant. If she's pregnant and her husband is a Yisrael, that child is going to affect her from returning to her father's house. Kinura, she has to only go back if it's like she was before she got married. Pregnant would mean she doesn't go back. It's a good question. Amar Rav Chizda, Tevelas veichelas adar boim. Dilay ma'abra, halay ma'abra, b'ma'abra adar boim maya ba'almahi. An interesting answer. It's not that she can eat truma the whole time. It's a temporary truma. Let's say she's pregnant. But that pregnancy is not considered pregnant until 40 days. So because before 40 days, it's considered maya ba'alma, the embryo is just considered water. But then at 40 days, it becomes considered an embryo or a fetus. And then, yeah, it affects if it's how long she has to wait. If it's for a boy, she has to wait 7 days. If it's for a girl, she has to wait 14 days. But if it's within the first, if she miscarries within the first 40 days, it's not considered a birth. It's not considered that she should have to wait for 7 days or 14 days like a male or female, because within 40 days, it's nothing. So that's what we're saying over here, that she's not considered pregnant the first 40 days, and therefore she's allowed to eat truma. She's still considered kinura. After 40 days, then she's going to have to stop. And we're going to have to wait until it's 90 days, I guess, to see if, yeah.
So according to this, then even if she knows she's pregnant, she would still be allowed.
If it's within the first 40 days.
40 days.
But that was officially not possible to know.
Okay.
Yeah. And they know today, they can tell from the different levels of some hormones or something. They can judge it today. The test.
So if
the lines on the thing.
if within 40 days we don't know.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
If within 40 days we don't know, does that count as a pregnancy in terms of pidyon? Is that considered to be a pre-button or no?
Oh, I'm not sure.
It's a very interesting
That's
approach.
a good point. That's an interesting point. It's probably considered you're asking if the next child is considered a peterechem. Yeah.
Because
Yeah. That's what it sounds like. Considered Maya Balma. It's not.
No abortions.
No abortions. Yeah. So it has to do with the form of the child, the development of the embryo. There's one opinion that says 40 days it's already considered developed. Other opinion says that it needs to be rikom avlad. It needs to be some sort of, we had this in Nida, there needs to be some sort of more of a, that it looks like it's the development of a human being.
So it's anatomical.
Yeah.
decision.
Anatomical, right?
I thought the 40 days was.
That she missed.
She didn't know, yeah, she missed a period that was at least 30 and then.
No, but we're not talking about her knowledge of if she's pregnant. We're saying that she doesn't know that she's pregnant till 3 months. The question is, but maybe she's pregnant anyway. And so we say that until 40 days, it's not even considered pregnant. Yeah, there goes that expression, a little bit pregnant. She's a little bit pregnant. She's not really pregnant. That's what. Yeah, they joked about when there was the whole abortion debate, like how is it considered a life? Is it not considered a life? At what point is this? 40 days is not considered a life, right? Anyway, they said that the Jewish mother said that the child isn't considered really alive until it graduates from medical school. Okay. So Amalei Abaya, Abaya said, "Ihachim aseifa hukar ubra b'meya tehema kolkelas lamafreya." There's a little bit of a problem. It says, like this, that she eats the truma after the funeral. But if she finds out later that she was pregnant, then she owes money to the kohen. Which kohen? I don't know. But she owes money to kohenim because she's eaten truma that she was not rightfully hers. Clearly it was b'shoigig because she thought she wasn't pregnant. But in 3 months, she finds out that she is pregnant. So she has to go pay a kohen for the truma that she ate. If you're telling me that it's not even considered pregnant, then what does she have to pay for? She wasn't pregnant. Gemara says, she only has to pay up until the 40th day. So she's working backwards. She finds out that she's pregnant. She has to pay for the truma that she ate until day 40. But from 40 to the death of the husband, she doesn't have to pay for it because she wasn't considered pregnant then. That was right. She was correct in eating truma. Rashi adds in over here. If you go back and read that brisa, you now have to translate the brisa that she wasn't married previously, that she wasn't married earlier than the day that he died. There could only be that she had one relations with him on the day that he died, on the day of their marriage, he died. That way, otherwise, maybe she was pregnant from relations from before. The whole brisa will only fit if it's impossible to be earlier, and it can only be from then and on. And then I start counting 40 days from the marriage, which was the same day as his death. Yeah, that's the only way it would work. Okay. Itmar. We go on to a new topic. Habalar Sasi bebeis chamav.
Is there a reason this price says show to cotton, doesn't say Koresh?
That's interesting. Yeah, because the Cheresh has a rabbinic institution that she's married, and this doesn't even have a rabbinic institution. Yeah, that's a good observation. Okay, someone that lives with his betrothed, wife, his fiance. It's more than a fiance; it's a betrothed. He's married to her, but they're supposed to wait until they did the kedushin. They're supposed to wait for the nesuin. So it's an official time when they move in. She's still living in her father's house. They would wait a year, right? A yarmit a mitvach. So Rav Amar Havlad Mamzer. Rav says the child is a mamzer.
Wow.
Now the logic that Rav has is that if she's willing to have relations when it's illegal, so maybe she had relations with anyone.
Yeah. Is that considered out of?
It's a
wedlock?
stretch.
And that affects the kid also.
Yeah. Right.
The more logical, she's gonna marry the guy anyway. So,
Right.
but the other one's-
Right. Shmuel says of Vlad Shtuki, you can't say that the child's a mamzer. Child is a doubt. Maybe. I mean, you don't know. Okay. Amar Rava says, Mistaber Milsid the Rav, the daima me'alma, the daima me'alma. If there was daima, means suspicion. What is that? What's happening? Oh. Rava says that we can accept what Rav's saying if there's a suspicion about this woman being inappropriate, let's say, with other people. Okay, so then we can say that we have what to be suspicious about here. However, of a lay daima mi alma, but this is an upright individual. So basra di deisha dinanla, it's for sure from the fiance. Okay. Amarava mina aminala, I can prove it to you. The Tani yolda teichal. We said that if she gives birth, she can eat truma. Yeah, because of the child. Is that what we said? Yeah, interesting. Yeah, this I didn't say this before. I said it wrong. That if she has relations with a kayan, and then she has a child, so the child will allow her to, even though there wasn't with marriage. I thought it was only with the marriage, but here no. Even if she's not married, the child, we consider the child from the one that had relations with her, and she can eat truma now. So 1 second, how could she eat truma? Maybe if she's willing to have relations with him, maybe she had relations with someone else. So it must be that we don't suspect to that. If there's a suspicion that maybe she has relations with other people, so yolda my teichel, elalav mine daima v'lei daima mi alma. It must be that she's only suspected of having relations with him and not from other. Over there, where everyone is forbidden to her, the fellow, the kayan that she had relations with, or anyone else in the world, it's all forbidden. And nevertheless, we say that, well, just because she's suspected of one doesn't mean she's suspected of another. So, here, when her fiance, she's suspected, you're going to tell me that she's suspected with other people that are out of the marriage. It's too far-fetched, right? So,
is it possible? I'm sorry. Is it possible that Rob is just saying this to scare people, like kind of like is there a kind of thing, just to, because this could be fairly common, and right, and
right.
So maybe he's just kind of saying that so that wouldn't happen, put some fear into the couple. That's not actually the halacha. Does that happen sometimes?
I mean, it is possible that it is possible to have that. The only problem is that it's such a huge statement. Yeah, I would have to see more commentary or compare this to other places. Rav was mangir aman the Makadosh Bebia. Rav gave lashes for someone that did kedushin with bia, so he's quite strict in these areas. But I need to line it up and see what's over here. I mean, we're viewing it, at least this Gemara is viewing it, that it's a real suspicion. That's where we're going back and forth. Like, should be yes, no. Like, what would a person do wrong? Okay. Amalei Abaya. Abaya says to Rava, even if there's no rumors going around about anyone else, the other men in town with this woman, it's only the fiance. But nevertheless, Rav still says the child is a mamzer. My time with Amrin mida afkar nafsha gabi yoras afkar nafsha la'alma. If she's willing to afkara, to be promiscuous with their husband, so she'll be promiscuous with other people also. So then, how do we have a case where we say that she can eat truma because the fellow was a kayan? How do you know who the child is? It says, there was no one else there. They were both held captive in the same prison cell. There's no one else. So that's how we know. Otherwise, we'd suspect a person that had relations with the Kayan. I don't know who it is. That's what it sounds like. Ikadamri, there are those that say this differently. We just had a machlekes Rava and Abaya regarding how Rav was ruling over here that the child's a mamzer. Some say it different. If he lived with her, then there's no question that it comes from him. And this is what the statement. Arusa she'ibra. An arusa that's pregnant. Rav amar avlad mamzer, Shmuel amar avlad shtuki. Rav says the child is a mamzer, and Shmuel says the child is a suffix mamzer. Shtuki means that the mother silences him. When he calls his father, the mother says, Shah. We don't know who it is. Amar Rava, Mistaber Milsa the Rav, the lay daima mine, the daima mi alma. Rava says, why does Rav say the child's a mamzer? When there's this rumors going on about other people in town with this woman. What does it mean, the lay daima mine? There were no rumors about him living with her. He just happened to admit to it. But the rest of the world, there's rumors going on. Aval daima mine. But let's say people are speaking about him, the fiance with the woman. Afagav the daima alma. Even if there's other rumors going on, we say that the child comes from him. Amarava mina minala. How do I prove this? Now we're going down a step. Before we were saying that Rav would agree if there were no rumors going on in the world. Now we're saying that Rav would agree even if there are other rumors. As long as there's rumors that he was involved, then that would clear everything up. Tiktani Yolda Teichal, because it says that if she gives birth, then she's allowed to eat truma. Now, how do we know that he was the father, the Kayan? If there's rumors only that he's the father, that he was with her and not other people, do you have to tell me that that's obvious? The chiddush is that even though there's rumors that it's from other people, and just like if over there, whereas for over there, where both of them are prohibited, there's no engagement, and nevertheless we say that it follows this fellow that admitted. So over here, where this person is actually going to be permitted to her because it's the fiance. So for sure we're going to follow him. Amalei Abaya, and now Abaya responds, even if there's rumors from both him and the rest of the world, the child is a mamzer. Our Mishnah is talking about where we can assume that it comes from him. That's when there's no rumors at all, and he just admitted to it. So then we can say that, well, there's no rumors, came from him. Okay, another point that we said in the Mishnah is Eved Paisel Mishum Bia Chulu. The Mishnah continues, that if there's a slave that's a grandson, it doesn't affect the grandmother from eating truma because the daughter had a relations with the slave, and now the grandmother wants to go back to the father's house. We say that the slave is not considered a descendant. My time, because we have a pasuk. It says that the woman and her children stay at the master's house. Doesn't follow the Eved Ivri back to his house.
Would it be different if she had a child and then later he or she became a slave? Or
Can't become a non-Jewish slave.
oh, thank God.
You can only be a Jewish slave, and a Jewish slave is considered a regular father, unless he has relations with a non-Jewish slave. Yeah, no one goes out of. This is a one-way valve. Judaism can only come in. Yeah. Mamzer paisel Michael. A mamzer affects the status of the grandmother. It can invalidate if it comes from Yisrael, and it can validate, make her allow her to eat truma if there's a kayin there. Tanar Rabbanan v'zera ein la says that she doesn't have descendants. That's when she goes back to her father's house. Ainli Elazara, that's only if she has children. Zera zar minayin, how do you know if it's grandchildren? Talmud Leimer v'zera ein la mikol makom, she has no descendants in any case. Ainli Elazara kasha zera pasal minayin, how do you know that even if they're zera pasal, if they're mamzerim, how do you know that that's going to affect her going back? Talmud Leimer v'zera ein la ayin Allah. Ein la is coming over here. We're reading it as ayin Allah, that you have to examine. Is there someone here that's puzzle? You have to things that you have to that you have to look into it, which means even when you have to look into it, it still affects her going back. The Gemara says, 1 second, you just told me V'zera Einla is teaching me grandchildren. Now you're telling me V'zera Einla means that even if it's puzzle. So the Gemara says, Zera Zar li yitzchakra, b'nei banam areim kabanim, grandchildren are like children. I don't need a pasuk for that. Yeah. Yeah, my grandmother would say that, Nana, that you get the nachas without the responsibility. And you just hand them back. His diaper is dirty. Okay. So if that's the case, Kietzichral is our apostle, so then the pasuk would only need to teach me one thing for Zer apostle. Amalei Reish Lakish le Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish tells to Rabbi Yochanan, come on, Rabbi Akiva dam yesh mamzer mechai v'lavin. Look at what happened over here. We had a case where we called the child a mamzer based on the relations that she had with a non-Jew. Are you following Rabbi Akiva that says that child is a mamzer because it's chai v'lavin, a negative prohibition becomes a mamzer? It says afil temer rabbanan. It doesn't have to be only Rabbi Akiva. It's a much more acceptable view because ba'avid kechavim ve'avid maidu. Rabbi Akiva held chai ve'lavin, someone that you weren't allowed to marry with a negative prohibition. That could be, what was that? A nasin or a ger mitzri or something that the child is going to be a mamzer. I think even by Machziger Shase, Rabbi Akiva might have said that. But over here, it's a much more serious because it's a non-Jew. The Chiyasur Avdimi Am Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Mishum Rabbeinu. When Rabdimi came, he said the name of Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi in the name of Rabbi Yudah Nasi. Rabbeinu over here is Rabbi Yudah Nasi. Ovid kecham ve'eved abal bas Yisrael of Vlad mamzer. This is this opinion that the child is a mamzer if the father was not Jewish. We don't hold like that. We concluded in the Gemara back on Daf Memhei, I think, that the child is considered kosher. It's not a mamzer. Kohen Gadol Pamsha Paisel. Kohen Gadol sometimes invalidates the grandmother from eating truma. Tanar Rabbanan Areini Kaparas Ben Biti Kuza Shemachalani Shemachileni B'Truma. What's the expression Hareini Kaparas? I should be an atonement. It means like I'm happy. There should be more of these, of this. Yeah. What she's saying is that I'm happy with my child that's a mamzer that allows me to eat truma. Ve'ini kaparas ben biti kada shepeslani min truma, but I'm not happy about my child that's a kohen gadol that makes me not allowed to eat truma. The mamzer can well, really a kohen gadol can also help her eat truma, but there's a possibility where a kohen gadol can make her not eat truma if her husband was a Yisrael. So the expression over here is kuza is the little jug versus the kada, which is the big jug. The kohen gadol is she gets more nachas from her mamzerel than from her kohen gadol.
She must really like her truma.
Yeah, she likes her truma. It's a discount. Discount in the grocery store, in the truma aisle. Okay. I think we should leave it over here. Yeah, let's leave it over here. We'll leave this for tomorrow. We're up to the new parak. If you're using a no, we're still like 2.5
Thank you,
weeks
brother.
behind. If you're using a Koran, you have to get a new volume. Yeah, for tomorrow.
Daniel, are you in Israel?
You going away tomorrow? Today?
No, not
Going away
yet.
tomorrow.